Let's start with that collectively video, because that's where your piece finished off, and then we'll broaden this out. What is the entry criteria for this collective, if you like? Because some people might say it's a cozy club of 30 corporates. Can anyone join?
Not anyone. I would love more companies to join, and we've got nearly as many as we've already got signed up in the wings and working through it. There's internal criteria of the sort of company. So clearly, what would undermine the whole of collectively if you had the wrong sort of companies. Yeah. So it's companies who are on the journey. Now, to be clear, some of those companies are more on the journey than others, but that's part of the whole thought is. Are you the sort of company who are willing to engage in moving this debate along and willing to do things internally and externally to have a positive impact?
Have you had to say no to companies?
We have.
Of course, I'm going to ask you who those companies are, but you're probably not going to tell me, right?
You're right.
I noticed when you look at the website, the corporates involved have quite a low profile on the site. I imagine that's intentional.
Yes, I think the thought is we all have our own websites, initiatives, and I could talk to you about Unilever Project Sunlight, which again is another way of trying to engage people through our brand lens, etc. The thought here was saying, well, actually, if the brand supporting this could take very much a backseat, and the last thing you're going to see on the platform, the media platform, is sort of corporate propaganda, etc. Because the second we do that, then it all falls apart, and that's why there's an independent editorial committee. So even if I wanted a Unilever message to go on it, I can't. It has to go through the committee, and then there's independent editors working on it as well.
I guess the reason I ask you this for 18 to 30-year-olds. Having a corporate attached to something like this might be a barrier to engagement. Do you think it's a barrier to engagement?
I think you're speaking like a journalist, and a journalist is close to corporates. I think most 18, 30-year-olds, as far as brands are concerned, have a positive relationship with most of the brands. People love brands. I mean, I know we love to hate corporates as such, but actually they're bringing brands that are part of our everyday life. And who here would like to say tomorrow, goodbye Google, Facebook, Twitter, and then have a good day. I think most people will start getting rather jittery. So I think what this tries to do is look at the positive of what can be brought. Now, you're right. I think people should have a healthy cynicism. And the second that collectively or any other platform prove those suspicions right, then it's doomed. But the idea of collectively and the ambition of collectively is to ensure that doesn't happen. That's why we've got people like Nike as well. I mean, there's a whole breadth of different companies there.
Jim mentioned the word revolution. I read the word revolution and powerful words like that when I was reading up on this. Is that the right word? And where's this revolution going? Where does it end? Is there an end point?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is mobilise people at scale, and so use whatever language you like, but it's not a shuffle. I don't think a shuffle is going to help us. I think collectively we've got a massive challenge out there, and we need to mobilise the world. And in some ways, maybe what we have on one side is exactly the answer to what we have on the other. So if the challenges are around this whole area of social and environmental sustainability, we have on this side the ability to mobilise individuals at massive numbers through social media. And we've seen what has happened to governments which have fallen in the matter of days. And I think that's a tremendously powerful opportunity if we can motivate, engage and align people to take a bigger impact. So is that a revolution? It's certainly a movement, and it's certainly something that's going to make a big impact.
You mentioned governments. Are governments stepping back and are corporates taking their place? And is that the right way to go?
No, I don't think so. I think it is everyone doing their role. I think everyone needs to step forward, actually. I don't think we have any space for anyone stepping back. So I suppose we're both, on one side, trying to encourage people to step forward. Absolutely governments. There's no way we can do this without at some stage getting onto tariffs and carbon pricing, etc. And that's only going to come through the leadership of governments. I think what some of the bigger international companies can do, though, is join things up. So, Unilever, we will source tea or whatever in one country. We will manufacture and package it in another, and we'll sell it in another. So what we can see maybe a little easier than maybe a single country is the joined up value chain where we have interests across. And sometimes it's hard to imagine how a sort of a producing nation like China can exactly agree on the same formula of success with a consuming nation like the US, because they're led by leaders who are doing the right things for those nations, which are slightly misaligned. And maybe companies and I would argue citizens, through the connectivity of social media, can look across geographic boundaries.
Staying very much with the marketing piece right now. You've used some strong language when you've spoken to audiences about marketing. You've talked about chaos. You've talked about disorder. You've said the marketing and ad industry isn't as joined up as it needs to be, and it's getting left behind in the context. Are you worried by the slow pace of change, or do you feel optimistic that we're going in the right direction and we will get there?
It is chaos. I mean, all the people who put their hands up will know this. And if the internet was the first stage of chaos, just wait till we get the impact of mobile, social, and data joining up. There's a bigger change that's going to go on in the consumer marketing world than the internet. And the internet was already a big thing, but I think the combination of mobile, social, and data will be bigger again. And there are a lot of people trying to join it up. I don't deny that. But right now, we are making it up as we go along. Anyone who has responsibility for capability building, as indeed I do for marketing, only but a couple of years ago, we taught all our marketeers around the world how to market on Facebook. Well, basically, you can rip up that playbook, because how you market on Facebook today bears no resemblance of how you did marketing on Facebook 2 or 3 years ago. So I think that continual reinvention is part of it. I do think the industry is going to have to get its mind around how they're going to simplify it, because right now the complexity, I think, is causing unnecessary costs and holding back speed of development.
You talk about simplifying it, but I guess leveraging mobile as well to the degree to which it needs to be leveraged to be effective. Is anyone doing that really, really well right now?
Well, it's a very leading question. I'm speaking to the person who is at Unilever, and we are the Mobile Market of the Year, having just been claimed by the Smarties, thank you very much, a few weeks ago. I would argue there's a lot of people doing some good stuff. I don't think anyone's really doing it at scale. So I'll give you a couple of examples. In Bihar in India, for example, it's a media dark area. So people can't get TV, they can't get radio, and it's in that way very entertainment poor. But like virtually everywhere in the world, you can get mobile coverage. I say everywhere in the world except for my home in Surrey, but you can get mobile coverage in Bihar, in India. And I think what's striking there is we started basically creating a radio station down the mobile. So you'd phone and you'd leave a missed call. I know this is one of the things they do quite a lot in India. So it's a sort of a savvy way of not having to pay. So if you're going on a journey and you want to communicate, you've got there, you leave maybe 2 missed calls. And of course on the mobile, that number is there and you know that, the VJ got to his destination. So you do a missed call, you leave it with us, we phone you back, and then you can choose 15 or 30 minutes worth of entertainment, music, jokes or whatever, and of course every so often you'll get a laundry commercial or a tea commercial or whatever, courtesy of Unilever. So that's an example of how even through a non-smartphone we can start thinking about ways of using mobile in novel ways.
Don't name names in terms of companies. Are there other sectors who are doing it well, in your view?
Yes, I think there are lots of people who are engaging. I mean, the people who are doing it best, of course, are the digital kings. And I'm going to name some companies because I think I only get some context. But the way Facebook reinvented their company, they were a desk. They were basically a mobile company, trapped in a desktop world as far as how they were planning it, and they basically flipped it all over. And now, it's a complete mobile-first company, and I think a company of that size and scale reinventing itself is sort of changing the engine of a Boeing 707 while it's flying. Is what they did. So I'd lean towards the tech companies, the digital media companies, they're doing it better than most.
Right. Let's bring reclaiming the nobility piece back in, because I've heard that a lot, and you said it this evening. We want to try and make marketing noble again. Was it ever noble?
Yes, I believe it was at the beginning. I do think marketing lost its way a bit, I think what did marketing do at the very, very beginning? It was just purely trying to understand better what the needs of people were and connecting the capabilities. So I suppose the very first part, before marketing was invented, it was literally someone producing something and seeing if they could sell it. And if they sold it, they got bigger. If they didn't, they went out of business. And the idea of marketing was to truly try and understand what were the opportunities, the needs, etc. And the marketing companies that made it really big, the ones that addressed real needs, big social needs, not sort of blue versus green bottle shampoo type marketing, but real fundamental needs.
And then that, of course, brings us to the sustainability piece. Spreading that word, bringing the nobility in that way. Let me ask you this, because I'm still a little puzzled by the relationship with the consumer. Are you trying to change consumer behavior, or are you responding to changes in consumer behavior?
Yeah, no, very good question. The answer, of course, is both. So there is a shift going on. So we're one of the largest commissioners of market research in the world. We do market research in over 150 countries, and that's a part of my remit is market research. And what I've noticed is there is a shift going on from not so many years ago, when people were very focused on my world, very much focused on myself, my family, my kids, my next door neighbour. And then we went through a phase of people being more interested about sort of our world, local communities and schools and supermarkets around them, etc. And now we're seeing another shift going on where people are genuinely getting more concerned about the world.
Okay.
And I think there might be a couple of things that are starting that. One of which is, again, back to the good old internet, social media, people talking about companies using child labour, i.e. there's a greater awareness of what's going on. I think the amount of climate-related disasters we see on TV is triggering it perhaps as well. But there is a shift going on.
So that then puts you in a position, or companies in a position, to respond to the consumer behavior. Yeah. Consumer-led demand is what you called it at the start. Let me ask you this then. To what extent is that marketing push affected by economic cycles? We know now that consumers, Unilever's consumers in emerging markets, in Europe, are really feeling the pinch. That my to our to the world, how is that affected when consumers' livelihoods are threatened?
Yeah. Well, certainly, when you go as far as livelihoods, people get very concerned about what the basic things they need, and shelter and food, etc. And of course, a lot of the products that Unilever sell are exactly that. We're foods and health and hygiene type products. So I think will always be an ongoing demand for some of those basic products. I think if you can then give them those basic products in a sustainable way, that has to still be a better proposition, even in tough economic times. Mm-hmm. I think if you ask people to pay a premium for it, you're lost. By the way, you're lost even if you ask them to pay a premium for it in good times. And that's one thing I've certainly learned, the idea that you would pay. By the way, if I asked you in market research or even now, you would tell everyone here that, of course, you would prefer, and you'd even pay a little premium. But what happens in the dark moments when you're going down the aisle in the supermarket, you actually then don't do that. So I think for the same price, absolutely. And that's why I think we need to think about sustainability in a different way. If it's an add-on, then by definition it starts becoming a cost or something different for business. I think we need to think about sustainability, how we get it into the core of the business, and why I think having marketing and sustainability as two sides of the same coin is critical to answer the very challenge you say. So if it's an additional activity, additional cost, absolutely you'll be squeezed in tougher times.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is how your remit, the sustainability and marketing remit, changes when times are tough. When Unilever's numbers come out and the board meets, how does your piece, how is your piece affected?
So we're committed for a long term around sustainability. And sustainability has been around since the very beginning of William Hesketh Lever and all the work he did back then in building that thought into the business. I suppose most recently was in the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, which we launched 3 years ago, where we make very clear longer term objectives in this area up to 2020 to source all our agricultural raw materials sustainably by 2020. We're now 3 years in and we're at 48%. And that's, I say, we're the world's largest tea company. You can't buy all the tea we need to buy sustainably right now. It doesn't exist. The capability doesn't exist. But we're doing everything we can to get there, and we will get there. But what does a consumer get? Well, if I tell you that the tea that's in your PG tips has been sourced sustainably with smallholder farmers who are doing better farming to produce this sustainable tea, the immediate feeling is it's better quality, better taste, better for the planet, and it is. And that starts being a better product. And I think that long-term commitment, I don't think you can come in and out of these things, but to actually say that what's going to inspire our brands going forward and make brands with purpose. One of the things, again, and what I can do because of looking after sustainability and marketing, is we've redone all our marketing brand position statements, and everyone now has purpose, and everyone also has what are you delivering towards the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. So we are baking it in, and I think that's the way you'll create real differentiated brands of substance.
Is it Paul Polman has called it scary in the past? Setting such lofty goals, scary, especially in times like this. Do you also find it scary? Do you ever sit down and think, wow, what have we got ourselves into here?
Well, yes, given I'm accountable for this, it's very scary. So when Paul's talking about who's he's going to make scared, it's me.
Yeah, right.
No, it is scary. And by the way, there were things in the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan we won't deliver. Absolutely won't deliver. There's some things we're so far behind, hugely challenging. But when we set off 3 years ago, we didn't know how to do any of it. And some of it we've got easier and got to quicker. And some things we thought were easier has ended up being a lot more difficult. And that's why we're very transparent. So you can go and you can look at the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, you can look at our annual report on the progress which we put out there, and we are just as transparent about the targets we're missing as the targets we're hitting. And if anyone in this room has any ideas about the ones we're missing, about how we could do better, then please, I'm very open to advice and help. And that's the thought, I suppose, around how do you better get collective sort of collaboration against some of these big challenges.
Is Paul Polman the man who set up this vision? Is he content with the progress right now at Unilever?
I think you'd have to ask Paul that, wouldn't you? But yes, I think we're equally concerned and content in the same way. So we're concerned about the size of the challenge and the journey we're on. I think we're also concerned that we need to get more companies involved in this. So we do an awful lot with our supply chain and the people we source from. If you do as we did with the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, we looked at our whole value chain. And we said we're responsible for the whole value chain, not just our factories and our offices. Which, by the way, I can show you great data of reducing water and electricity by 75%, all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, all of us should be quite good at reducing our impact in the bits we control. But in a consumer goods business, actually, about 25% of the impact comes from sourcing, and another 60% comes from consumer use and disposal. So we've said we're responsible for the whole. I mean, this would be equivalent of a car company saying they're responsible for the oil industry as well. And so we source from about 1.5 million smallholder farmers. And if I took tea, for example, we're working with Rainforest Alliance to basically teach smallholder farmers how to source tea more sustainably so we can get enough tea to then provide it for your cup of PG tips. And I think it's working through that has been quite challenging. But we could achieve every single goal in the USLP, the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, and it would still not make any impact on the world. So what we need to do is get many more people and many more companies involved. And that's where our concern still is.
Does it, and I'm sorry I'm pushing this, but final question on this bit. Does it bother you that investors, shareholders, are such thorns in your side in this?
I think there are lots of different audiences and they're motivated at different levels. You're completely right. I've certainly seen different levels of interest, with analysts when I talk on different topics. You know. So when I talk on digital marketing and advertising, everyone's leaning forward and taking notes and saying, seeing what's going on, whatever. And absolutely less energy when I speak around sustainability. Having said that, I think everyone now accepts that this is a huge de-risker for big businesses like ours. And let's be really clear, we are not going to be able to carry on sourcing the products that we have at the scale we have with another 2 billion people coming to the planet unless we start sourcing sustainably. So this is about longevity. We've been around for more than 100 years. If we're going to be around for another 100 years, we need to crack it. So that's one thought. The other thought I think they get as well is around cost savings. So on eco-efficiency alone, over the period of the plan, we've saved 250 million euros in cost savings. And I think everyone understands that. If I talk about zero waste to landfill, so waste, the planet pays for waste twice. Once when you create the thing, and secondly when you get rid of it. By the way, your P&L pays for waste twice, once when you create it, and once when you get rid of it. We're currently at 90% of our factories at zero waste to landfill. We hope by the end of this year it'll be 100% zero waste to landfill. That's a saving of just under 20 million euros. So I think the saving side, I think people get. The growth side and innovation is a harder sell. And it's a harder sell because actually the way we sell it is through the benefit rather than through sustainability. So for instance, the biggest use of domestic water around the world is washing clothes. And the majority of the world wash hand wash, not like you guys with a machine. They wash in 1 bucket and then rinse in 3. Most people then have quite an arduous time to either collect the water, they have to walk a long distance, or they have to pay for water. In fact, the people who least can afford to pay for water pay for water. And we've come up with products that actually reduce the rinsing down to 1 bucket. Wash in 1 bucket, rinse in 1 bucket, and you save 2 buckets. You don't have to be an accountant to work out you've halved the amount of water. When we tried to convince people on a sustainability platform, to your point about people under pressure and economic, they're not at all interested. When you start saying about you have to gather less water, you have to pay for less water, you have less work in rinsing, as in less labour, etc., then you start selling the product.
Yep.
So the way we sell it is more through the benefit of why it's a better product rather than planet or sustainability.
I'm glad you talk about sales because I want to come back to, and this fascinates me, the number of hats you wear at Unilever. Sustainability, marketing, internal comms, external comms, the foundation work as well. How has the relationship, and these questions come very much from a marketer, but how has the relationship between marketing and sales developed? And how important is that relationship? And then I'd like to get your views on how important the marketing and IT relationship has developed, given social and mobile.
Yeah. Well, of course, this again is all changing, and many people out there will have had the same challenges that we have, because I talked about integration on one aspect of our business, but sales and marketing is still run separately within our business. And of course, one big part, which is being transformed right now, is the whole area of e-commerce. And it is slightly bizarre if you think about the model, that we do all this engagement of people around brands on a digital platform, and then we take them right through, and then eventually it'll buy it now button arrives. And when you press the buy it now button, not that the person doing it would think of that way, it suddenly gets transformed into another department, into sales. And I think that was relevant when we used to do marketing that used to basically show you an ad on a Tuesday in such an engaging and motivating way that when you're doing your shopping on a Saturday, you can remember it. And now, in a digital world, you're both seeing the ad, engaging with the brand, and buying it all in one go. So that convergence is a huge change.
But is there often, I imagine there is, a big disconnect between what marketing are trying to do and what sales are doing? And as someone who has broken down so many silos in these roles, should you not bring sales into your remit as well? And maybe IT as well?
I've certainly got enough on my hands right now. I think there is something to be said where e-commerce will ultimately end up. and I'm not sure yet where it'll ultimately end up. But if you think about everything from the rating and reviews, the right product selection, etc., there are lots of marketing things right now in e-commerce. Moving across to IT. Funny enough, IT, I think there is even closer connect right now. So one of the first things I did is I put a CIO on my leadership team. So I have an IT guy right embedded. And the way we built quickly our whole digital platform, because I think it's true to say 4 or 5 years ago, we certainly weren't ahead of the game. We had a lot of catching up to do. And I think we've done a lot of that. But we did that by building the platforms and the robustness on our IT side, as much as the partnerships and the relationships with the digital companies, as much as building the capabilities internally.
I know one of the roundtables tonight is on language. I believe it's on language, and it's something that I know the crowd has spoken about at other events, the importance of language and the extent to which language worries people, this use of the word sustainability. And one of the reasons I've got notes in front of me is it's got its own language, let's face it, this subject. Should we worry about language?
Well, I do think language is important. I think language signals change. I think language tries to capture one idea versus another idea. Now, what the particular word is probably less important, but we need a collective agreement on what they mean. So one of the first things I did in this job is I closed down our corporate social responsibility department. And you might say, well, hold on, if you've got this sort of goal to do all this, CSR, isn't it all about CSR? And I just think the whole thinking about CSR, certainly in our business, it might be different in yours, was this idea that basically CSR was about doing something good over here to somehow negate something bad over there. And I think that's when I think, again, sustainability comes as an extra cost rather than being embedded. And so the thought would be, is actually what we should be doing is doing everywhere. So when we talk about the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, it is all brands, all countries. It is everywhere. And we're going to make sure that we reinvent our business with sustainability at its core, a new business model. And so by definition, I think CSR is unhelpful language for me, and we've said goodbye to that. Now, you might say, well, hold on, now you're talking about social sustainability and environmental sustainability. Isn't it the same thing? Well, I don't know. Is new improved Persil better than original Persil? I would argue yes, it washes whiter. I'm getting to the end of my bit. It's amazing how quickly the time has gone, and I'll throw it out to the audience in just a sec. But back to this nobility point. Do you think the sustainability drive, to use that word, has made Unilever a greater brand in the eyes of the consumer? Well, I don't know. We should ask people who use our products. Certainly, my ambition would be is the Unilever U will come the trust mark of sustainable living, and I would hope one day it will be like the good housekeeping seal that we all have busy lives, we're all out there trying to shop and do things quickly. And I hope one day it will be that when you pick up a product and you look at the back and it's got a Unilever U, you think, they've done their homework. These are the guys I know who will have been sourcing vanilla from Madagascar, from sustainable sources, etc. They will work harder than the alternative to get there. So that's where my ambition to be. Are we there yet? No, I don't think so. I think it's a journey, and I think we'll get there increasingly with time. If I look at the tracking data, are we getting there? We're moving. If I look at key opinion formers, we do key opinion former tracking research, absolutely. So amongst our key opinion formers, whether that be NGOs and governments and universities, academics, etc., I think we're well recognised. If I go to employees, if you look at our engagement levels for Unilever employees, and the way that's grown over the last 4 years. Things like, are you proud for working for Unilever? Yeah. Do you see the bigger purpose? Absolutely. If you look at future employees, we are the third most searched company on LinkedIn after Google and Apple. And I think what's driving that is the bigger purpose, the idea that as a company we're trying to do something larger than just sell yet another product. And so I think at different levels of science, but I still argue it's early days.
And it's about, ultimately, it's about building trust in the consumer, and it's about, again, this is language I came across a lot, making marketing a force for good again.
Yeah.
And you believe that we can get there.
Fundamentally, I think we've been through this phase of marketing to consumers when we were very much in a broadcast world. And we had all the answers and all the ideas, and we had everyone, lovely with their family sitting around the TV, just waiting for us to beam out the new ad for Lynx or Dove or whatever. And then I think we're in a phase right now of sort of marketing with the world. So we're marketing to the world, marketing with the world, and that's much more interactive. And the great things about social media is you can get people to take part. And if you look at user-generated content as an example, huge amount for the top 20 brands now globally, 25% of their content is user-generated. Massive. That's sort of marketing with people. And I think where we need to get to is marketing for people. And I think when we get to marketing for people, we will re-engage people in the idea that brands can be a force for good. Brands can reinvent some of the things that they did back in the early days.
Very good. Keith, I'm going to stop it there for now. I might come back.